What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are going to discuss the upcoming buyback event in ROX Southeast Asia. If you're new to the game and haven't experienced this event since it was released, the buyback event is one of the most highly anticipated events in ROX ever since it was launched last year. This is because players can get a lot of crystals from this event just by selling items, equipment, and cards that they get from instances and from grinding monsters in the wild. What's amazing about this event is when I first created a video a few days ago about the activities for the upcoming anniversary event, it was initially listed that the buyback event will only offer 2 million crystals to the players. However, after this recent post from ROX, they have increased the amount of crystals that players can get up to 3 million. Now, this is something that I can really appreciate from ROX, and I highly encourage players, especially those who are playing as an F2P like me, to participate and maximize the rewards for this activity. Now, the reason why I'm making this video is to provide some tips on how they can prepare for this upcoming buyback event. One of the most frequently asked questions that I got from last year's buyback event is where can they get materials and equipment to sell in the buyback NPC. So before I expound on this, you have to take note that the items that you can sell to the buyback NPC are the unbound items, meaning these materials, equipment, and cards are also sellable in the exchange center. You can check if an item is bound by simply clicking that item in your inventory, and if the status is unbound, then that item is sellable to the event NPC. Obviously, bound items, or the ones that are tagged as red in their status, are the items that are not sellable in the exchange center, which means that they are also not sellable to the buyback NPC. Another thing that you have to take note is that not all items, especially those that are obtainable from the COC or other NPCs through the use of Zenny, are not sellable in the buyback NPC. For example, the materials that you typically loot from grinding monsters in the wild, which are sold in the COC NPC, are not a part of this buyback activity. Only the items that you can sell using crystals in the EC are the only items that will be accepted by the buyback NPC. Now, going back to the FAQ that I mentioned earlier, the best method to get materials and equipment for the buyback event is through the dungeons and instances in the game. Now, this is an advantage to the older regions and sub-servers, as most players who have already reached the later stages of the game may have already accumulated a lot of materials in those instances. The materials that I'm pertaining to are the materials that you typically get in instances which are used for crafting the blue equipment. For example, the materials that you get from Dracula's castle are the fingernail, collar, and so on. These materials can be sold to the buyback NPC. At the same time, the equipment that you get in those instances are also sellable in the event. So if you have been doing your daily instances throughout your entire journey and have been saving these items, this is the best time to do a cleanup in your storage or inventory and sell them all to the event NPC. Now, if you still think that you don't have enough materials saved up for this event, you can get more of these crafting materials and equipment when you complete the Nightmare instances in the game. The Nightmare instance is one of the best methods in collecting Valkyrie coins as well as crafting materials and equipment. At the same time, instead of just doing 3 daily instances in 1 week, which equates to only 21 attempts, the Nightmare instance has 30 attempts per week on top of your daily instance, which allows you to gather even more items for the upcoming event. So if you're still lacking the items needed to maximize the rewards for the upcoming buyback event, I recommend that you start completing the weekly Nightmare instances in the game. You might say, this instance is quite boring and repetitive. And to be honest, I totally agree. As I've mentioned the same sentiments in my previous videos, where ROX should just add a sweep or an instant complete feature for this type of activity. However, if you ask me if this is worth it, my answer to that is yes, because it's not every day that you can get 3 million crystals in an event, especially if you are an F2P. If you're wondering which Nightmare instance is the fastest to complete, I think the Drake instance is probably the best, because if I remember it correctly, I was able to complete that instance in less than 2 minutes. But of course, that totally depends on how fast you clear the monsters inside the instance. If you're wondering if there are other alternatives to sell more items in the buyback NPC, my answer to that is yes. But you have to take note that this is only based on my personal perspective. One of the easiest items to sell in the buyback NPC are the cards that you get from farming monsters. These cards that you can pick up in the wild are always unbound and can be sold in the exchange center or in the buyback NPC. Of course, the players that will have an advantage on this are the players who are always online and active 24/7, as they have a higher chance of looting a card when grinding all the time. Like this character for example, when the racial map was not yet released, all I did was to farm job experience from the Pitman monster. Fortunately, throughout my entire time farming that monster, I also got a total of 11 Pitman cards. Similar to when I farmed the Blue Venatu monster, I also got 6 unbound Blue Venatu cards, which are all sellable in the buyback NPC. From these cards alone, I can easily max out the 3 million crystal reward from the buyback event. So when this event was first introduced last year, I never really kept any of the cards that I get. Usually, I dismantle these cards to get coins for the card gacha machine. However, since we now have an event like this, all the cards that I loot from the monsters are no longer for dismantling, as I reserve these cards for buyback events like this. If I remember it correctly, the maximum offer in last year's buyback event was around 6 to 8 million. So when that event comes, I'm ready and I have the resources to maximize the rewards. But again, that's just my personal perspective on this event. Some players prefer to dismantle the cards and try their luck in the card gacha machine. At the end of the day, it's up to you on which type of method you are going to take for this type of event moving forward. I hope that these tips were able to help you out. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, and if you want to see more ROX content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And in case you want to grind 24/7 but don't have the physical device to do so, the sponsor of this video has got you covered. Do you want to stay online 24/7 in this game but don't want to use your phone, or you don't have a computer to do it? UgPhone has got you covered. UgPhone is a cloud emulator that is perfect for AFK grinding. It is a cloud phone that runs independently in the cloud without consuming the memory or battery of your physical device. Even if you close the UgPhone app, your game will still continue to run in the cloud, which makes this the perfect app for AFK grinding for 24 hours, 7 days a week non-stop. You can also run multiple instances of UgPhone in one account, which allows you to play multiple games or accounts simultaneously. UgPhone is available in Google Play for Android, App Store for iOS, Windows Store for PC, and you can also use a web browser to run UgPhone. If you want to try out UgPhone, you can use my link shown in the description below. Note that when you are playing in the Southeast Asian region, make sure to select the Singapore servers. You can also use my invitation code, which gives you an extra 488 diamonds from UgPhone that you can use to extend your time in using the device. 12 diamonds is equal to an hour of an extension. So the 488 diamonds is an additional 40 hours in using the UgPhone cloud device. So thank you guys, and thank you UgPhone for the sponsor. Now let's get back to the video.
You're a superhero.